Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a really familiar story from the book of Genesis, but we're going to look at it through the eyes of a 17th century French mystic, Madame Guyon. For her, these ancient tales weren't just history, they were a living map for our own spiritual lives.
So let's just get right to the heart of it all. This is the central question Madame Guyon believed Genesis is asking us. Are we supposed to build our way to God, or are we supposed to let go? She shows how these two completely different spiritual paths are laid out right at the very beginning.
All right, path number one. This one starts with a story I'm sure you know, the Tower of Babel. But for Guyon, this isn't about some ancient construction project. No, she sees it as this perfect metaphor for the spiritual ego trying to run the show.
You got to pay attention to the language here. It's so important. Let us build for ourselves, to make a name for ourselves. See, it's all about human effort. Guyon says this is a picture of anyone who tries to achieve holiness and connection through their own strength, their own brilliant ideas, their own willpower.
And what are they building with? Bricks and mortar. Guyon calls these human inventions. Think of them as all the spiritual projects we cook up ourselves. The exercises, the strict rules, the disciplines, all stacked one on top of the other, born from our idea of how to get to God. It's basically us trying to manage our own spiritual growth and set the rules for God to follow.
And what's the result of all this self-effort? Well, the story says God confuses their language. But for Guyon, this is so much deeper than people suddenly speaking French and German. It represents the inner chaos, that constant noise in our heads, the profound difficulty in actually hearing God's voice when we're so busy following our own plans. We can't even understand each other, let alone the divine.
Okay, so you've got this story of ego and confusion. But right on its heels, literally the very next story, the narrative gives us a totally different option, a new path. And it starts with a simple, direct call to a man named Abram.
Guyon sees this as this massive spiritual call. The country we're told to leave, it's not a place on a map. It's the country of self. It's a call to leave behind everything we think we are, our identities, our habits, our safety nets, and to just step out on a journey of pure trust and self-abandonment.
So when you put them side by side, the contrast is just, wow, it's night and day, isn't it? The Tower of Babel is a human invention, driven by making a name for oneself, and it ends in total chaos. Abram's path starts with God's command. It's all about calling on God's name, and it leads to rest and union. One is about building up, the other is about letting go.
Now, this journey of letting go, it's not some walk in the park. It's not easy. Guyon shows how Abram is immediately hit with tests that reveal just how deep this path really goes.
So after God appears to Abram and makes him this huge promise, what's the very first thing Abram does? He builds an altar. To Guyon, this simple act is a masterclass in how to handle God's grace and all the gifts we receive in life.
This shows us the true art of gratitude. It's more than just saying thank you. You receive the gift, you recognize where it really came from, and then you immediately offer it back, refusing to claim it as your own. Guyon warns that if we grab onto these gifts and say, mine, we are setting ourselves up for some serious pain when they're eventually taken away. Real surrender means holding everything with an open hand. But here's the thing. Choosing this path doesn't make you perfect. Not at all. There's a famine and Abram goes to Egypt, and out of pure, raw fear for his own life, he messes up. Big time. He lies about his wife Sarai and puts her in a truly awful situation. It's a major failure.
Now this is where Guyon's insight is just mind-blowing. She says that for the soul who is truly committed to surrender, God even uses our mistakes. As long as we don't bail on the path, God himself will step in and clean up the messes that come from our own weakness. Your failure doesn't disqualify you, it just becomes part of the journey.
So this all leads up to the ultimate test and the ultimate reward. Abram's wealth, which was a gift from God, actually starts causing fights with his nephew, Lot. This forces a showdown, a moment of truth that reveals just how deep Abram's surrender really goes.
And what Abram does next is, it's just completely upside down from how the world works. As the elder, he has every right to choose the best land first. But he doesn't. He just lets go of his right. He tells his nephew to take his pick. And of course, Lot chooses what looks like the best, most fertile land for himself.
Okay, listen very, very closely to the timing here because it is everything. The Bible is so specific. It says after Lot had parted from Abram. Not before the choice, not during, but after the act of complete letting go.
It's in that empty space Abram created by his surrender that God speaks and acts.
And this right here is Guyon's core principle in a nutshell. The moment we renounce something, the second we let it go for God's sake, he immediately gives something back. And the reward is always, always bigger than the sacrifice.
God tells Abram, "Lift up your eyes, look north, south, east, west. Everything you can see, it's yours." But for Guyon, this isn't just about real estate. It's a symbol for the vast, unlimited inner freedom and spiritual territory that opens up when we detach from our own wants and our own will. By giving up one small piece of land, Abram got everything.
And so that brings this whole ancient story right back to us, doesn't it? Through Guyon's eyes, it stops being a history lesson and it starts being a mirror. It forces us to ask, what are the towers of self-effort we're trying to build? And what's the homeland, the comfortable country of our own ego that we're being invited to leave behind?